Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we are super excited to have Pauline Greenidge joining us today. Just to give everyone a quick introduction, my name is Hannah, and I'm a third year student at U of C in natural science. And with me today is Camilla. Camilla, if you'd like to give yourself a quick intro as well.
Yeah, so my name is Camilla. I am from Quebec. I am a student in environmental sciences at university, and I joined YCR in December of last year, and I'm super excited to hear you speak today.
Perfect. Thank you so much. For anyone that is just seeing YCR for the first time, we are an advocacy group made by students and young professionals for students and young professionals, and we believe that Canada can have a strong future in resources, the economy, and the environment. Please connect with us on our social media at any time. All of them are at YC Resources if you want to learn more about what we do. Today, as I said before, we are super excited to welcome Pauline Greenidge. Among many other fantastic things, Pauline is an award-winning people and teams expert, fearless inspirer, connection creator, author, and panelist. One of the topics that Pauline is most focused on is how to create a culture of inclusivity and connection in teams and organizations. To support her clients in developing this, Pauline created a method called the mindset of invitation, based on the concept that an invitation is intentional and planned. Through her consultancy, Upward HR, Pauline works with leaders and teams, provides individual coaching, and also offers workshops on Frontline Leadership Fundamentals, a team possibilities program designed to help teams strengthen relationships, create resilience, and reinvent how they can work better together. In addition to working with both individuals and organizations and speaking, she is an instructor in continuing education at the University of Calgary. Pauline is also a member of the Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council. She holds designations as a chartered professional in human resources through CPHR Alberta and has received the Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee Medal for her work in multiculturalism. Just before I hand the floor over to Pauline here, please know that attendees are encouraged to ask questions throughout the presentation using the Q&A box below. And for anyone watching through our Facebook, please feel free to drop questions in the chat, and we'll make sure that we get to all of these at the end of the session. Pauline, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super excited for your presentation, and we are super excited to learn more about what you do.
Well, thank you so much, Hannah and team. I'm going to share my screen, and thank you for that introduction. Let's see. Let's hope that you can see. Okay. Can everyone see my title page?
Looks good.
Okay. All right. Well, again, this is, I believe, my third time being with Young Canadians for Resources, and it's a privilege for me to share some of the information that I'm going to share with you today. So we're going to spend a few minutes going through some key things that you can use to help create a resume that gets noticed. And before we do that, there we go. Before we do that, as Hannah mentioned, my organization is called Upward HR. We focus on relationships, resilience, and reinvention. And so today, it's really just about helping you create an opportunity for yourself to market yourself in a way that's going to get you noticed and connect you to the opportunities that you're seeking. So before we start with the key things that I want to share with you today, I think it's important to kind of just see where the lay of the land is with regard to hiring managers. And what hiring managers are saying, a third of them, 34% of them, generally tend to pass over resumes with little or no measurable results. And so they're not sure what's the thing that you're bringing to the table or any result. And so a third of them are passing those on and not even taking a look. Hiring managers are also saying that they spend fewer than 30 seconds looking at resumes in general. And I will tell you that in my own experience doing some recent recruiting for my corporate clients, I spend 30 seconds, sometimes even less. And so that's, a quarter, 24% are not even spending that much time. So we really need to make sure that we're putting all the things that we can put on our resume to get it noticed. And then finally, recruiters, 2/3 of them claim that there's a talent shortage, and that's the biggest challenge that they're facing in finding candidates. I will say to you that it is right now an employees market. So if you're looking for opportunities or roles, there are lots of them. And I'm going to push back on that 63% just a little tiny bit. And that is to say, there's a talent potentially shortage in certain areas. But I often think that the talent that's out there, namely folks like yourselves, just need a little help in representing the skill sets that you do have to offer. And so it's really critical that you have a resume that reflects the education, the skills, and the strengths that are unique to you, so that they stand out. And so to that end, here are the 4 things that I want to share with you today. And I invite you to ask questions as we go through, or save them till the end, whichever works, and we can walk through them. And so these are 4 key things that as an HR professional, over many, many years of looking at resumes, I think are really important, not just for folks like yourself who are young professionals or aspiring in your schooling and your careers, but for anybody. So the first thing is format and appearance. What should be on the resume? How should it look? And some key tips for that. We'll also talk about the importance of accomplishment statements. These are the bullets that are under your jobs or under your co-op or intern or practicum experience. If you take nothing away from our time together today, the accomplishment statement is where you can really focus and get noticed. Then the other 2 things are your profile. So telling us who you are and who you are professionally and what you're offering. And then very quickly, we'll touch on references. And so these are the 4 things that I wanted to touch base with you on today. And some of this will be familiar to you for some of you. For some of you, it will be brand new. If you've heard of this stuff before, this is a great refresher, but I'm also going to add a little bit of my own spin in some of this and give you some pro tips where I can to help you create that resume that gets noticed. So the first thing I want to share with you is the basics, your resume format and appearance. And your resume is a foundational work document. It's sort of like having a passport, a driver's license. In your work life, this is the foundational document, your resume. And all the other things that you'll do, your cover letter, your LinkedIn profiles, hinge off of this core document. And so this is where you build trust with your employers or potential employer, and it initiates that possibility of creating a working relationship. So keeping something clean and simple and easy to read is really important. And it's one of the best things that you can do to get your resume noticed. So when we talk about what that means in terms of appearance and formatting, it includes 4 key things. Number 1, generally speaking, a reverse chronological resume is going to be easy for a recruiter to read. And at this stage in most of your careers, probably the easiest thing for you to put together. So when we say reverse chronological order, what we mean is most recent experience to the least recent experience. So if you're working in a co-op or an internship or a practicum, that would come first. And then maybe you have a part-time job that's not related to your work, your education or your career goal. You could also put that after that, but the dates would be most recent to least recent. Number 2, the header and contact information. This is really basic, but it's something that I've seen many times where people don't use a professional email address, or they sometimes don't put the name that they like to go by on their resume, or they include too much information, or don't even put their degree after their name if they've earned it. So we'll show you an example of what each of these numbered points look like. But the header contact information is really important because you need to make it easy for a recruiter to connect with you. Name, a professional email, and page numbering, by the way. Number 3, a profile or your summary of skills. And we're going to walk through that later on in this presentation, but a brief summary of who you are, some of your skills that you've attained already, and then your own unique strengths that you bring to whatever work that you're doing. And then number 4, accomplishment statements. These are the bullets in each of the roles that you have, or in a project or an assignment that you've done, that highlight the results of your work. And we're going to show you some examples of those later on too. So I know this screen is a bit of an eye chart, but I wanted to give you a visual of what some of this looks like. Now, this is a very basic resume that someone who's just starting out might have. And so I've put some caption boxes on the side so you can just notice the points that I'm making. I've circled up top the name, your name, very simple. I think we all know that. But don't forget to include, if you've already accomplished your degree, you can put it there. And when we're starting out, it's good for a recruiter to see that you have your BSA, your BA, your certificate, whatever it is you're working towards. Then notice underneath, there's your LinkedIn address, a Gmail, or your personal email, whatever you use, Outlook, Hotmail, whatever, Yahoo. And then we want to see your cell number on there. And I assume almost everybody now has a mobile, a cell phone. We actually want to have your cell number on there. You could put a landline, but most of the time you may have a recruiter call you, and so they want to get a hold of you right away, or they may even text you. Pro tip with regard to your cell being on your resume, if you have it on there, make sure you activate your voicemail on that phone and that it's not full and that it says who you are. So, hi, you've reached Pauline Greenidge. Sorry, I can't take your call. Please leave me a message. It can be that simple so that the recruiter knows who they've called. If your voicemail is, hey, sorry, you missed me, leave me a message, we don't know that we've got the right person. And we're always concerned about confidentiality. Many of you probably don't talk on the phone a lot, but it's important to have that voicemail activated. Then note underneath the name and the contact information is your summary of skills or a profile. Now, in this case, this person has chosen to put a summary of skills, which allows you to say who you are, an analytical and results-oriented bookkeeper with 3 years experience or 6 months experience or whatever it is. And then the next bullet, strong knowledge of the things that I know, so some software. And then at the end, a little bit about your strengths. Forms collaborative relationships with clients, colleagues, and peers, a reliable and flexible person that works well with others, whatever those strengths are. This has been done in bullet points, and I'm looking at the section here with the blue arrow, by the way. And you can write it in sentences. It doesn't matter. Bullets are sometimes easier when we're starting out to highlight our key skills that we want someone to know. This is the part of the resume that you will be able to tweak and tailor to each opportunity. And that's going to be really important if you want your resume to get noticed. Now, if you're still a student, you're in your program or you're getting close, you can put your education and any professional development or courses that you've taken. So if you're, let's say, 2 years into your program, you can list the degree or certificate or diploma you're working towards, and then just put the expected date of graduation on there. And you can change that as needed. You can also include, I think it's fair to also include the last level of education, which for many of you would be high school or CEGEP. You can put it on there. And then if you have any other certificates, things you've done online through LinkedIn Learning, you're welcome to put those there too. We typically put our education and professional experience development like that on the first page when we're starting out in our career as students. And you'll probably leave it on page 1 for the first, I'd say, 2 to 4 years. Then we move the education to the back because you have more work experience. This person has honors and awards that they wanted to highlight. They can put them there. And then they've also put information in reverse chronological order with regard to their co-op internship here. They had a placement with an accounting firm, and they've listed the date and what they've done. And so that's an opportunity that you can include if you're going to have a practicum or some sort of cooperative experience. Then if you note, the rest of the resume is focused on their work history. Now, if many of you were like me, you had a part-time job, maybe it was in retail or working in a restaurant, construction, summer camps, whatever it might be, you can list that as your work history. This person is a cashier part-time, and then in the summers they were a landscaper. And so that's why they have those 2 dates the same. And then additional skills. And if you have community involvement or interests, you have room on your resume, perfect. We want to include keywords in that summary up top. That is where you're going to be able to tailor it to the application that you're sending in, the posting. Folks, spelling and grammar. One of the biggest things I see all the time in resumes is spelling and grammar. And not so much even spelling mistakes. The words are spelled correctly, but they're used incorrectly grammatically. A key culprit is there, and there. There is the place, T-H-E-R-E, there as in they are, T-H-E-Y''R-E, and there, possessive, T-H-I-E-R, E-I-R. Sorry, I think I spelled that wrong. So have a look at your resume, make sure that you get a friend, a colleague, your significant other, whoever it is, to have a look at it. I wrote a book years ago and I looked at stuff and I miss spelling mistakes all the time because I looked at it so many times. So get some help and make sure that you've got that grammar down, and then tailor it as needed. Great fonts for a resume are sans serif, things that show up well on screen and also on paper. And we'll talk about that in a bit too. All right. The second thing, and probably one of the most important things that you can focus on in your resume, is your accomplishment statements. Now, some of you have probably heard of accomplishment statements or result statements. These answer those great behavioral style questions. Tell me, what you did, how you did it, and the result. But these are really important on a resume, not just because they show the contribution that you make. They help you, if you're building them, you identify your own opportunities, your own results that you've got, the value that you're able to bring. And when you see it on paper and you believe it, then you can talk about it more confidently. So it's really important. So what is an accomplishment statement? If you haven't heard of this before, it really highlights the specific achievements, contributions, and results that you have contributed to in your work group. Maybe it was a study group, a project, your co-op, or even in your job as a server in a restaurant. Believe it or not, every one of us has an accomplishment and a result. We just don't think about it because we just do the thing that we're doing. But it has 3 parts, an accomplishment statement. The first thing is an action verb. Always start your bullets in your resume with an action verb or action word, and a strong one if you can. Then the middle part of your sentence or statement is the task. What were you actually doing with some detail? You might have many steps that you took to complete the task that you had, but you only need to list a couple to let the receiver of your resume know, oh, okay, that's what they did. And then, of course, at the end, the result. Highlight the impact or benefit your hard work had for the company, the group, or the project at school. This is not something that everybody does. So at first it might feel awkward trying to do it, but it's even something I see with career transition clients of mine who have a lot of work experience. It's new for them to talk about the results that they were able to help contribute to, because we mostly just talk about what we do at work. If you're only listing duties or responsibilities and you say responsible for, you're missing an opportunity to get noticed and sell yourself. So on this slide here, what I've got is the action verb plus task plus result equation. That's what equals an accomplishment. And these are some sample statements for folks who are young professionals like yourself. So I want you to just have a look at the left-hand column where it says action verb. These are some words that you can think about using, and you can Google, ChatGPT, lists and lists of action verbs that might be appropriate for what you're looking for. So developed, designed, collaborated. You might not have an opportunity to save $1 million in your first job or even in your current part-time job, but you are actually contributing to an end result. So let's take a look at the first one. We won't go through all, but let's take a look at the first one. Developed. What did you work on? Developed and delivered a successful presentation. You could say a detailed presentation, a PowerPoint presentation. You could add whatever words you want to add there, but delivered a successful presentation. And what was involved? It was about a technical topic to a team of senior executives, or a presentation to our professor or our group. And what was the end result? Earning praise for clear communication and subject matter expertise. So it doesn't always have to be a number or percentage. Sometimes the result is doing something efficiently, effectively, consistently, correctly. These are things that when you're starting out are really important and help show you as a young professional that you have care and concern about what you're doing and that you do it well. And that's something you should be proud of. So that's an example of one. I wanted to include another one at the very bottom because I think it can look quite different depending on where you are in your studies or where you are in your search right now. So the very bottom one might be for someone who's just starting school or just kind of getting into school. So the action verb here is worked part-time while attending school. The activity is demonstrating time management and multitasking skills. And this person earned excellent performance reviews. Maybe they got to be server of the month at Earl's, or you were recognized for balancing your cash every shift, whatever it is. These are valuable things that you're adding, and some of us are just taking that as for granted. Well, that's my job, but it's important to highlight that you're doing it. So I'm seeing some questions in the Q&A. Should I be looking at those, or do we want to collect and review those at the end?
That's all good. Yeah, we can cover all of those at the end, and that way we don't interrupt you throughout your presentation.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it takes a little bit of time to absorb, but if you Google accomplishment statements, there are a lot of templates available, and you can walk through your resume. And this is not by any means super easy, but you just want to know what you did, what you worked on, and a result. And if you can get these even 60, 75% in that range of how it should be or how you could list your accomplishments, you're doing a lot better, and you're going to have a resume that people will want to read more about. The point of these accomplishment statements is to make sure that the recruiter or the hiring manager can see what you're adding value to and ask you some questions about it. All right. The third thing that I wanted to touch base with you on today and share with you is your profile. And your profile is what tells the world what you tell the world about you professionally. A good profile is a bit of a summary. It's usually not a lot of words. It could be bullets like what we looked at on the other slide, or it could be paragraphs. And you can write it typically in the third. You don't need to put your name in there. You don't need to say I, because your resume, your name is on the top of it. So you can just hop in and say, that you are an aspiring architect, or you're a recent graduate with, 2 years experience, or whatever it is. You don't need to say I in there because it's your document. But this is where you can customize your resume. This is what I would say is your elevator pitch, your 30-second infomercial, but on a page. And if you can develop this, you'll tweak it over time. It's got multiple uses, not just on your resume, but on your LinkedIn profile, how you introduce yourself. And this is the thing that answers that question, tell me about yourself. We all know in an interview, after they've reviewed your resume and said, welcome, and, how are you? They'll say, so Pauline, why don't you begin by telling us about yourself? And you're like, most people get stumped by this. So your profile on your resume actually is a good template that you can use speaking to somebody, but also catching the attention of the human that's looking at your resume or the applicant tracking system that's going to be scanning, looking for keywords. So what should be in your resume profile? It should answer who you are professionally. And when we're starting out, it's the same thing. We're just talking about being aspiring to, or developing, or whatever word you want to use. If I see someone as an aspiring architect, an aspiring engineer, an aspiring marketing and comms professional, or HR professional that they're aspiring, it's positive and it will be well received. So that's something, a word you can put in your back pocket if you're still working through your education. So it should tell us who you are professionally. It should highlight your experience and strengths. Not all of them. You have many strengths, but you want to pick some key ones. And then it should be a combination of what we call hard and soft skills. So those technical skills, software, programs, courses, technical knowledge that you're gaining, and also your strengths that are unique to you, things that you bring to every kind of job, whether it's a summer job, making French fries at McDonald's, or a co-op program. It really is your 30-second infomercial. So let's take a look at a couple of examples just to highlight what this looks like. Now, I apologize, again, a wordy slide, but I wanted you to see the color coding here so that you can get a feel for this. And of course, you're welcome to Google this after, and you'll see a lot of different examples for people who are new graduates or young professionals. So the blue sections here are really talking about who are you? Who are you in a professional sense? And the first example, a highly motivated recent graduate with a degree in computer science, and this person has a passion for software development. In the second example, an energetic recent graduate with a degree in communications and a talent for creating compelling content. So you can use your own words and make it the way that sounds natural to you, but that's what that piece is. The yellow highlight is those experience and strengths. So the first person has proficiency in multiple programming languages and experience in full stack web development. So they've gotten exposure in some very technical pieces. The second one, the person has experience in social media management and content creation, and then goes on to say they focus on storytelling and audience engagement. You want to use the words of the potential employer. So if they're using those words in the ad, you can tweak these one or two sentences. That's much easier than redoing your entire resume. And you don't really need to redo your entire resume. You just need to tweak this profile piece a little bit. The last section are what we used to call soft skills. It sounds so old-fashioned, but they're really your uniquely human skills. The strengths that someone has shared with you. Gosh, you're really good at organizing. Or you know what, you really are great at collaborating, and you pulled that group project together in our assignment in last class really well. Things that people have shared with you that are strengths, or that you know to be true, to be your own strengths. So in green, this person likes to deliver high quality projects on time and within budget. The second person says they have a keen eye for detail and they like to deliver high quality work. You can change and tweak these as you see fit according to the posting that you might be responding to. The soft skills are things that you will bring to every job, no matter what the job is. The hard skills are those technical things that you've learned, programs, software, technical skills in your program, or knowledge that you bring about something in your degree. All right. Lastly, before we open it up to questions and share a few key tips, is references. So really quickly, a resume is really important, but having great references is also important. So once your resume gets noticed, we want to make sure that we're providing quality references to people. And here are 3 key tips to think about. You want to choose the right people. So choose people who can speak to your work ethic and your skills. And it doesn't matter if it's your part-time job. Maybe you taught summer camps or you volunteer at a church or something like that. Someone who can speak to seeing you in action and seeing you taking on tasks and completing them. Character references are okay, but really a recruiter is looking for, even if it's only one work experience, it could be a professor, it could be an instructor, whatever, but you want someone who can speak to your work ethic. You want to ask their permission before you use them. And you also want to ask them for a good reference, not just, can I be a reference? Can you be my reference? Will you give me a good reference? And most people are happy to do that. But I will tell you, I have been on the phone calling, checking references, and someone has said, oh, I didn't realize I was on this person's reference page. And I can say that they worked here, but honestly, they didn't, they're a nice person, good person, but they weren't really successful in this job. And you can imagine me on the other end hearing that, thinking, well, okay, why didn't they, this is an insight into that individual. So it has happened to me more than once. So choose the right people, prepare them in advance, let them know that you're out there applying for jobs and that you may get a call, especially if you've gone through an interview and they said, our next step will be references. You might want to give your reference a heads up and say, hey, they might be calling you in the next week or two. And your reference might go, oh, I'm really happy to provide that, but I will be in Hawaii for 2 weeks. So here's my other number or whatever. And then lastly, you want to follow up after each application. So I'm not saying if you send out 10 resumes, you reach out to your references every time, but you want to know if it's getting close and they've applied and you got an interview and you get the job. You want to reach out, let your references know, and also thank them. And so that's something that I've been a reference for many people. It's rewarding for us to be able to support someone when they're starting out. So let your references know. All right, to close it off, 5 key little summary points that I want to share with you before we open it up for questions, and I hope we're good for time. If you're starting out, highlight your education, include your coursework or any achievements that you've done in your program. If you had to raise money as part of a group project for the community and you were graded on it and you did well, put that on your resume, whatever that looks like. Don't forget to highlight your education, use action words and words that demonstrate your impact, because you all are going to create impact in your roles for sure. Keep it concise. There's no rule about 1 page or less than 10 pages. It's really keep it to 2 pages, folks. Keep it simple, sans serif fonts, lots of white space, don't need multiple colors or printed backgrounds. And you want to use a font that's 10.5 to about 12 in size, depending on which sans serif font you use. Arial, Calibri, Garamond, there's a whole bunch. Pick one that you like and keep it consistent throughout the document. Really makes it easier to read. Don't forget to include all your work experience. Sometimes we're starting out and we have a job that's not related to where we want to go. All it shows is that you're industrious and that you're trying to grow. So put your experience in reverse chronological order. And don't forget to tailor it. Tweak that profile or that summary of bullets up top to use keywords that the applicant tracking system or the human looking at it, or humans, sometimes it's multiple people looking at your resume, so that they can see, I want to pull this person's resume, because you want to be that person whose resume gets noticed. So with that, Hannah and team, I'll turn it over to you. And I'm excited to hear questions. I know that was a lot of info.
Oh my gosh, that was honestly fantastic. It was so in depth. I appreciated that you broke down all of the sections like that. So before we even get into questions, thank you so much for all of your expertise today.
Oh, thank you. I'm so, thank you for the opportunity, and you're welcome. I hope this is helpful. I wish that I had somebody just giving me a few tips when I was starting out 100 years ago. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the group has.
Fantastic.